right, so we had a great question, and the question went like this. What does a correct pressure shift feel like? Does it feel like the legs are driving toward the target or something different entirely? Great question. The answer is something different entirely. And let me explain. So it's something, what it feels like is very unique to each individual. But what does a pressure shift feel like when you toss a ball? You probably have no idea because you've never thought about it. I haven't either. But that's as simple, as boiled down and concise as you will feel a pressure trace. And to demonstrate that, I've got two swings here. One is a swing of me throwing the ball. One is a swing of me hitting a little, I think it's like a pitching wedge or something like that. A short iron, a throwing a ball, and it could be a driver swing, it could be a mid iron, it doesn't matter. It's going to be the same thing. So let's take a look at it. I just put these yellow lines up here just for reference. They don't mean anything. They're just for reference so we can kind of compare the two movements. So what does it feel like? So the golf swing for me feels much more today because I have trained to feel the correct pressure movements, much more like throwing a ball, which is very instinctive for most people. We grew up throwing balls. We never really had a taught of the pressure trace and throwing a ball, all those things. We do it very naturally, very athletically. We get a golf club, stand in front of a golf ball, and a lot of that goes out the window. A lot of that because of how the game has been taught. So our goal is to get more back to this kind of natural, instinctive, athletic motion. So let's take a look at the golf swing first. So we'll take a look at this throw first. So right now, that's how early in the throw I get my max amount of pressure to the back foot. And in this case, when I threw the ball, again, wasn't thinking about anything movement-wise other than just throwing the ball. I just naturally lifted my front foot. I lightened my front foot. Now, let's take a look at the golf swing. And let's see how early that happens. So in this short swing, I reached my max pressure on my right foot right there. Very, very similar. Obviously, there's not as much head sway in a golf swing as there is a throw and all those things. But very early in the golf swing, very early in the pressure trace. So we see the and very early in the ball toss. So we see the similarities in the timing of the pressure trace. All right, so let's take the golf swing forward. So that's max pressure on the golf swing is before left arm parallel in the backswing, so very early. Left arm parallel, just for a benchmark, is 50% of the timing of your golf swing is gone at left arm parallel in the backswing. So I've reached max pressure on my back foot before that 50%. Now let's take it and see when I get to that left arm parallel in the downswing, 72%. All right, now let's take it again and look at kind of the similar spot in the forward swing, 97%. So you can see, that's why this second yellow line is here, how I have kind of gotten myself forward very early with my pressure. Right? Makes sense? You with me so far? Very early with my pressure, wasn't thinking about doing either one, especially the ball toss. They just happen to be very, very similar. Now, let's take it on through to the release right there. It's just starting to come out of my hand. I didn't really, except for my belly, I didn't really move past that second yellow line. Let's see what happens in the golf swing. The exact same thing happened. I didn't really go past this yellow line. So the reason this is so cool and the reason it's so instinctively natural for so many people once they kind of relearn how to do it with the golf club in their hands is by this time, I'm kind of letting my pressure follow the club head. So the club head is pointing away from the target. I'm as far away from the target as I'm going to be pressure-wise. As the club head, watch the white dot right here, as the club head starts swinging back towards the target, it starts moving back towards the target. So I'm giving myself a head start early. And by the time I reach left arm parallel right here, 72% on the front foot, my work is done. I've got not all of it. I've got a ton of work done in the very slow moving 92% of my 1 second golf swing. And by this left arm parallel in the downswing, you've used 92% of that 1 second. So if we just creep it down to impact, I'm at 75%. That's only a 3% change. Now, most people aren't going to be that low. They're going to be 10, 15%. That's perfectly fine. But the idea is the bulk of my work with the body, with the pressure, all of those things moving towards the target was done well before I tried to deliver the club face. Folks, that's a big, big point to make. Most players, and actually, give me a second. I'm going to pause this and pull up a swing so you can see it. Here's a player, and this is an example of a trace that we see literally every day. It's very, very common and creates the necessity for leg drive. So leg drive, no, if you're late moving left or to your lead side, you are going to have to throw in some leg drive, and you're going to see it's not going to be the best thing for your golf swing. So this player, and not that I'm any kind of an example of how to swing the golf club or any kind of thing, holy grail of golf or anything like that. Certainly not the case. I do understand how to move athletically. I've done it my whole life. Many of you have done the same things. The best ball strikers in the world know how to do it. So there are some very core fundamental athletic movements that we're trying to make equations to, and that makes the golf swing so much easier. So this player is, by reference, just comparing my swing timing wise to his swing, I was 72%, I was maxed out on my back foot at this time. He's moved almost none. So he's barely 54%. Now you can see that his top of the backswing is right here. He's at 68%. So he's heard all the TV commentators, magazine articles, all of those things that say you want to be at the top of your backswing on your backside. He's got that down. He's doing that. Now, he actually increases it a touch on the downswing. Again, this is not that uncommon, to the point where he's used 92% of his 1 second, right? That's pretty much all we have in the swing from start to impact is 1 second. 92% of that is gone right now, and he's 70% still on his back foot. By comparison, I was 72% on the front foot. That's a massive, massive difference for what's going to take place from this point to impact. So we've got less than 1/10 of a second to get the club head to the golf ball, and he's going to try to really drive the legs, do a ton of lateral pressure movement, lateral body movement, lateral hip slide. All of those things are all coming along for the ride when you're starting off of that back foot that late in the downswing. They're just coming along for the ride, and you're not going to be able to stop them. So he happens to strike the ball at 60%. So I moved 3% from left arm parallel to impact. Again, that's not typical. It's going to be somewhere in 15 to 20% for most players. He's moved 30%. We've got golfers on here who move 50% in less than 1/10 of a second. So if you had to guess which is easier to find the center of the club face, which is responsible for ball speed, which is responsible for distance, center of the club face is also responsible for accuracy, consistency. Do you think it's easier to do from a massive lateral leg drive, lateral shift, all of those things right literally at the blink of an eye? Or do you think it's easier to do when all of those things have had the bulk of their work done very early, and then you're just trying to flash the club head speed through the ball without all those body parts falling all over themselves trying to get there as well? It's certainly the latter. You want to do that earlier, and you're going to play much better golf and have much better control of your ball flight because of it. So to kind of recap, And just to make the point here, that's where you see a lot of this curve comes from, is from late movers to that lead side. And again, this player is pretty typical. He's by no means the exception. We see 55% trying to go from back foot to front foot. Some guys can go from 60% on the back foot here to nearly 100% in impact. And the middle of the club face is the exception for them. So get that pressure left early. It's not a leg drive. You don't think leg drive when you're just tossing a ball. I'm not trying to throw a ball 100 yards. I'm talking about just tossing a ball. That's more like the golf swing than this business of trying to get maxed out on the back foot at the top of the swing and then have everything start to shift together on the downswing, all those things. You're going to create yourself just a big, massive hurdle to try to jump over with no time to do it in. So as the lies get worse, so are your golf shots and your ability to repeat this move. Think early, not quicker, not leg drive, just think earlier, just like you do when you toss a ball. Great question. Let us know if I didn't cover anything that you wanted to hear, or if you have any comments to add to this. We'd love to continue this discussion here online. Thanks for the question.